everyone. My name is Karl Orvik. I'm the resident artist in violin and viola at the University of New Hampshire. This video is about a 10-minute guide to this year's New Hampshire All State auditions. I'll be doing violin for this video. There's three parts to the audition. That is the scales, the solo piece, which is the Bach E Major, and then sight reading. This video will be mostly focused on the Bach. Let me just mention, make sure you try to practice sight reading as much as you can. It is possible, believe it or not. Just grab an old book that you maybe haven't done all the pieces in, and just practice putting anything in front of you and trying to read it, and you will get better just with doing that. But talk to your teachers about it, and there's lots of techniques and tricks that you can learn along the way. The scales, they are fairly extensive and also fast in the sense quarter note equals 50, but they're written in 16ths. So my advice is to practice the scales where at first the 16th note equals 50, so you can get a nice slow approach at them, and your bow is still going the right speed, so you can practice your tone. Then pretend that the 8th note is 50, and you can do again the same thing. And then finally pretend that the quarter note is 50, and then you'll be at the right speed. All along the way, you're working on your intonation, but you're also thinking about your bow and your tone. And so just don't forget about that. A lot of people, when they play scales, especially when they're fast, the tone seems to get sacrificed. So as much as you can on the individual left-hand stuff, but don't forget about, people are listening for your sound and the quality of your sound. Here is the Bach E Major. Important that you get the right edition, which is the Schirmer edition. Looks like this, possibly. And but when you use the whatever edition they specify, it's important that you use that, and try to do as much as you can feel comfortable with the edition markings. I think there's some leeway with the fingerings, but try to do the bowings if you can, and your articulation with, you can always make a few exceptions, but I think that's important to sort of follow as precisely as you can what's written. I'm gonna play the first page. They mark it at 84, and I think it's a little slow, but actually I think it's pretty good to do it at 84. It might feel slow at the beginning, but there's so many tricky passages to this that I would just keep it at 84 and try to exaggerate the dynamics and all the articulations, and if you're clean with it, it'll seem pretty fast anyway. So this is 84. I'm going to play a little bit of this for you. 3, 4. Okay, so let's start off with just articulation first. Quarter notes should have some space to them. Baroque style of playing. Nothing too... Okay, it's okay to use vibrato, I think, for this, but try to keep the bows light and kind of spaced out, especially in the longer value notes. When you get to this part, you know, it's a very famous, well-known figure that he wrote here, and I think it's important to feel like you're crescendoing through those repeated notes and then arriving at the third beat each time. So yeah, make sure about that. You may have noticed that, also tutti and solo, you know, it makes it fairly clear in this edition, but basically when the notes are big and normal, play them, even if it says tutti. So at the beginning it says tutti, which means, like, you know, everybody, the orchestra, and then you've got a part solo, and then there's some tutti markings that are, the notes are very small. Don't play those. You could see I was resting during that. But anytime the notes are sort of normal size, whether it's tutti or solo, I would play it. Speaking of that, when it comes to when you have the rests, my rule is if it's longer than a measure, you don't have to count it. Just come in on the next entrance when you're ready. If it's a measure or less, then I would count it. So in measure 20, when you have the 3, 4, 1, 2, I would just count that out and then continue on. Okay. Don't forget, at the end of the page, measure 32 going into 33, you've got that long tied half note. I'm sure the judges will be counting along with you there, so just make sure you don't, treat that as some kind of fermata. Actually count it and hold it out the right amount of time. I wanted to go on to the second page a little bit, just checking the time here. First of all, there is a misprint in this part. I will show you where that is. That's actually in measure 62. When you get to this, so it's written as just a B sharp the whole time, but it should be, and that's actually, I checked it in this edition, in the piano part of this edition, so it's right in the piano part, it's not right in the violin part, so just make a note of that. Let me play a little bit of just the part before that, because it's so tricky with all the double sharps. This is measure 53. I'll just play a few measures. Quite tricky. Let me try that one more time. So yeah, just listen to that and make a note of what things are double sharped and what things are just regular sharp. When you get to this part, try to remember it's very important you're with your wrist, really loose wrist and flexible. Try not to do that, but work on keeping the bow kind of contained and loose and not a lot of bow. Okay, one last thing I wanted to just mention here, which is measure 95. Now what I'm demonstrating here is that if you look at measure 99, for example, well, and 98 is where it starts, so don't sustain the top note with the other bottom notes when there's a rest. So here you can and sustain. So you see what I did? Okay. And then at the very end, there is this sort of slow, before it comes back to the beginning material, there's this slow Adagio part, so... Oops. So just take your time. At the end, I just do it in one bow. I'm taking a little bit of an exception to the bowing there. So you get that on a nice down bow, that diminuendo. Okay, I'm out of time. It was, I hope that this was helpful. If you have any questions, of course, go to your teachers first, but if you feel like you want to reach out to me for any other questions or advice, I believe my contact information will be displayed at the beginning or the end of this video here. So thank you very much. Good luck.